So, since we got to the end of Phase 2, I would say it's fair to refer to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as big. There's lots of characters, lots of different locales, whether they're on this planet or another one. It's big, it's been big for a long time, but back then it had a center, and it was never necessarily geographical, but there was always a character or organizational center. Tony Stark was a center, S.H.I.E.L.D. was a center, Nick Fury was a center, Agent Coulson was a center through Phase 1, and in the post-Endgame MCU landscape, the franchise has been kind of rudderless. And now we've got a movie called Captain America Brave New World. And I'm thinking to myself, is it brave? It's certainly not new. But is it bad? I don't know if I'd say that. Is it great? I don't think I would say that either. Is it the best post-Endgame movie? That's probably a stretch too, and it's certainly not the worst. So what is it? What did I just watch? Did I like it? This is a really strange spot to be in, because regardless of whatever's hanging on the wall behind me, I wouldn't call myself a hardcore MCU fan. I enjoy it. I believe I've seen all the movies. I definitely haven't seen all the TV shows, because there are just too many for me. I can't keep up there. Okay, I'm wandering. Captain America Brave New World. For the most part, it is a movie. It is a story that is not particularly difficult to follow. On the other hand, if you haven't done the homework, because there's a whole bunch. You need to have seen The Incredible Hulk. It would help if you'd seen The Eternals, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series. Okay, actually there's like a ton of homework, and at this point you're coming in to the MCU. What is this, like the 30th movie? You've got to expect that there's going to be a learning curve. I think Captain America Brave New World is going to be a hard movie for people to talk about because the story's not particularly difficult to follow, even though it's kind of thin. The reshoots aren't that noticeable, except when they are. And that's mostly visually. It's not really a storytelling problem. We've basically got this story about Sam Wilson being Captain America and what that means to him, but not so much what it means to the world. And I'm surprised, like Ross actually has a pretty big part in this movie. And we've got two fantastic actors in Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford. So how could you go wrong? I don't know if you went wrong, but did you go right? Okay, let's try to break this down. Visually, I think this movie works pretty well. The cherry blossoms are actually kind of a nice visual through line, particularly since there's a conflict between the United States and Japan, and the cherry blossom trees in DC were a gift from the Japanese. So that all kind of flows through nicely as a visual motif. So generally the action sequences are well done and they're interesting to look at. Did they go a little too far with Captain America cutting things in half with his wings? I think after the 10th or 11th time it gets a little old, but it looks good. Generally the movie looks good, except for when it doesn't. Except for when it looks really, really bad. Except for when it looks like Anthony Mackie standing in front of a green screen, and it just takes you right out of the movie. But for the most part, it works, and it works pretty well. But I mean, like, we're not talking like it works well Captain America and the Winter Soldier well. Maybe like a first Ant-Man kind of well. I liked more than I didn't. So like if we're doing like a scale of like 0 to 10, we're already at like a 5.1, but the score is kind of in your face. I think it kind of works for what they're trying to do, and it kind of makes up for the thin storytelling. I think the story is good enough. If anything, maybe this movie will be regarded as one of the last movies to come out before Phase 6, and maybe there'll be a course correction there. I think the acting is a bright spot. I think the movie is very well cast, and the performances really deliver. The Serpent Society as a sort of in-your-face Easter egg is kind of pointless when nobody looks anything like they do in the comics or act anything like they do in the comics. It's just kind of a waste of time. I don't even know why they bothered to put that in there. It's like if they did a version of Iron Man where he just has a really big broadsword, you'd be like, what's happening? Sidewinder without the cape is just kind of pointless. Maybe they changed it in the comics since I stopped paying attention. I don't know. And I sort of don't care. I don't want to do a bunch of homework. I just want to sit down and enjoy the movie. And for the most part, you kind of can do that with this. It's strange, you know, it's more of a movie to talk about in the context in which it exists, because the movie itself just isn't that interesting, but it's also not that bad. It's not like Green Lantern where you're like tearing the seats out of the theater, throwing them at the screen and like demanding a refund. It's not like bad like that, but it's not like Endgame people stand up and cheer sort of good either, which I know those are like the two huge ends of the spectrum for extreme, but it's just kind of middling. It's just kind of an in-between movie coming out at an in-between time for Marvel, where they're starting up their big reorg of getting rid of the Thanos plot and shifting over to this Doctor Doom situation, whatever it's going to be. For the most part, Marvel doesn't let you down here with this Captain America movie. It's not great. I don't think this is going to be a movie people revisit, rewatch, and like we'll talk about in years to come.